But speaking of, like hate speech and bigotry and stuff like that, I want to talk about something that was really interesting to me, which is this idea that the TV show Lost was a toxic, racist environment. And I want to show you guys that there was a
Oh God.
huge, epic article in Vanity Fair that just came out, and it's based off of a book that's being released called "Burn It Down," I believe, and it's a specific look at the TV show Lost, and about how Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse were kind of behind a very toxic work environment that was just littered with like racism and sexism to a certain extent. And this is an extremely long article, but it is well worth reading if you guys are interested in this type of
I
thing.
read it.
Yeah, like I was really impressed with how good this article was. And the reason I think that this article is actually accurate, as opposed to like some type of hashtag Me Too hit piece to kind of dethrone like a powerful person in Hollywood, is that number one, Lost has been off the air for decades. Like it's not really like a show anymore. Number two, the two guys at the head of this, Carlton Cuse and Damon Lindelof, they're not in any real positions of power in Hollywood. Yeah, they're showrunners, like they're producers, they make stuff, but they're not like in charge of anything really. And so like it doesn't make any sense to like decades later come after them for this stuff, which leads me to believe that like the stuff that was reported in this article is pretty accurate. But it was really interesting to see, like, especially like on Damon Lindelof's case, because like he's been very big virtue signaler, right? He's teamed up with Ta-Nehisi Coates. His Watchmen show on HBO was very, very woke. A lot of stuff in here. And then like there's a part in this article where they quote him from someone who was in the writer's room as saying that he fired Harold Perrineau, the guy who played Michael on the show, because Perrineau accused Damon Lindelof of being a racist. And so in response to that, he fires the one black guy on their show. And it just goes to show that, and Damon Lindelof even comes out later on in the article and admits he's like, I was a young showrunner, wasn't very experienced, and I made mistakes at the time, and I wish I could go back and change that. But the word from the Hollywood writers' room was that like there was some like really in bad taste, like racist humor going on there. There was a lot of stuff that like Carlton Cuse wanted to kill off one of the black characters by having him hang from a tree, and the black writers in the room were like, dude, like that type of imagery, like you're talking about lynching, and he's like, oh no, like it has nothing to do with that. So like there was a lot of like kind of like instances where the people who were in charge didn't seem to understand like how racist they were being. And that it was also interesting because there was this culture there where if anyone tried to question or challenge the people in charge, there would be retribution, especially on the acting side. A big part of this article is Harold Perrineau being interviewed about like him wanting to have like a good relationship with his son, like have a good representation of a black father and black son on the show. And every time he'd go to Lindelof or Cuse, they would basically like slap him down by like writing out better parts for him in the show, like making his character like like less interesting, less likable. So there was a lot of stuff like that in this article, but I think it just goes to show that Hollywood doesn't practice what it preaches, right? Like if you don't like seeing a black Little Mermaid, you're instantly a racist, and Hollywood will accuse you of being racist. Meantime, behind the scenes, they are some of the most racist people on the planet. And they have no problem with rewarding bad behavior, like we've seen with Ezra Miller and Harvey Weinstein and stuff like that. So I found this article very, very fascinating. John David, what was your take on this Vanity Fair article?
Very thorough, actually, and just like you said, it's supposed to be the most progressive town in possibly the world, and yet this kind of thing happens. What the heck? Why does this thing happen here? I immediately started thinking of Joss Whedon, all the crap that has come out against him in terms of what the heck was going on with Buffy. I thought of that, and I never watched the original Power Rangers, but I heard there was some stuff going on there with the actor who played the Blue Ranger. Him being gay, but there was some stuff going on there. I'm just absolutely shocked that this kind of thing would happen in a town that claims to be so progressive, it claims to be so open to other people's opinions and lifestyles and all that stuff, and just it's just shocking that this kind of stuff still happens. And it's not that I don't believe it. You know, they wouldn't have written an article this thorough and this long if they weren't absolutely convinced that this kind of thing happened.
This is a book excerpt, right? It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's like a chapter of a book.
No, it's not an excerpt. It's an actual article, but it's based off of the research that the writer did for her book on this topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tom Connors, Damon Lindelof, like, to me, I think he's one of the biggest hacks in Hollywood. Yeah, occasionally he makes something good, but his adaptation of Watchmen was just such a huge virtue signal that it felt like he was compensating for stuff like this, right? Where like he happily fired a black actor because the black actor accused him of being racist. And we've seen stuff from like Ray Fisher where like he came out about being discriminated against by Warner Brothers, the actor who played Cyborg and stuff like that. And so like I do feel like Hollywood has a systemic like problem with like racism and sexism and stuff like that. And you could argue like, well, this was like 20 years ago or like whatever, like things have changed since then. But I don't think so. Like Hollywood seems to reward bad behavior because like they're just too chicken shit to call people on it. Like just look at Ezra Miller and like how he's skated away with like all the terrible things he's done.
Well, I think that all has to do with who the individual is that's doing said bad behavior, right? And of course, there's always the power factor as well. Someone like Damon Lindelof, he's somewhere in that mid-level-ish, but he's too white and male, I think, to probably get away with too much. Now, Ezra Miller's a they, them. That will get them as far as past this Flash movie, and then we'll probably never hear from them again. Kryborg is another individual we probably won't hear a whole lot of again. And look, I think it has less to do with race than it has to just do with people being difficult. And especially if you're going to bring your race into this, right? I mean, look, if you sincerely think somebody's acting racist, unless there's nobody to witness it, nowadays, especially, most people are going to call it out. It's not like it was, like you just said, Matt, 30 years ago, to where some people are like, well, I don't know, I don't want to lose my job. Director man is acting pretty racist, but I think I'm going to keep my mouth shut on this one. Oh, fuck no, there's 12 Karens that will speak up right now to tell you how racist you're being. So at this point, I think that to make those kind of accusations, you got to have something to pretty much back it up pretty well with. And I don't even want to stick up for Lindelof in that respect. But at the same time, actors, no matter what color they are, they're difficult to work with. They are idiots, okay, at the end of the day, for most part. They want people to love them, and they also make shit difficult for the one guy who's trying to make them look good, right? So, or gal, depending on if it's a girl director. Like, especially with Kryborg, what is a great example, right? Because the shit that he has come out and said and done is like, do you really think you're doing anything to help your career at the end of the day? All you're doing is broadcasting. You are difficult to work with, and if you have a disagreement with me, I'm going to cry racism. That's really what you're broadcasting here.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're doing, again, like, I'm not denying that there isn't actual racism. In fact, we will argue that a lot of the crap that Hollywood does is racist. And that may be what the point you were trying to make, Matt. But at the end of the day, they still have opportunities. And we brought it up earlier when it talked about some of how, when we're yelling at clouds, talking about music and stuff. Really, things will live on and the cream of the crop will rise to the top. I have a hard time believing that the world as a whole has been racist for a long time, right? Growing up, I didn't understand a thing such as racism until the PC shit of the 90s, right?
Yeah,
or
same.
when my parents
Neither
my parents actually had to explain something to me that I saw on TV and I didn't quite understand why it was a bad thing. Or like my parents would say, well, you shouldn't say that word and that's why, and they would explain it to me, right? But then I understood as a kid. I could even understand that a word meant something so horrible that you shouldn't say it to somebody because it's demeaning, right? No matter what it is. So like, I just don't get this crap. There's a sense of entitlement that comes along with this shit, right? And it goes both ways, at the end of the day. But no, I mean, I really don't know how to respond to this because I can't stand Lindelof, but I don't really think he's a racist, if that's what the question is. But I mean,
Well,
I have a
I
hard
think,
time believing most people would be a racist without it really showing. It's kind of hard to hide something like that.
I think it's more about the hypocrisy here.
That
Like,
is true.
basically,
Yeah.
you know, Hollywood presents itself as the bastion of progressivism, when behind the scenes, they are even like worse than you know the political parties that they claim to be like fighting
Well,
against.
and that's got to be true because look, I mean, the whole idea of being and that goes back to what I was saying before about actors is like, look, you're showing yourself off, or you're showing people off. You're using people as a commodity to tell a story and make money at the end of the day. So it's not slavery, but it's also a form of like humiliation if you think about it on a certain part. And yeah, they have been getting behind people to try and use them as virtue signals to sell their projects. So maybe it's karma biting them in the ass. I don't know. I don't exactly know what you want me to say, Matt, at this point, because it's such a complicated issue. But yeah, no, systematically, this is what I've said. The places that are claiming that the world is racist, like corporate America, Washington, and Hollywood, are the three most racist places and sexist places in the world.
Hey guys, if you could do me a quick favor, if you like this episode and it tickles your fancy, or any other episode that we've done in the past, share it on social media and tag us in that post so that we know you're talking about us, and we will immediately jump onto that app and we will respond to your tag, and we can talk about what you like about the episode and possibly talk about something that we might want to cover in the future. And we would love to bring you in our community. We have a wonderful Discord app as well. There's a bunch of people in there that just love chatting with us. And we'd love to hear from you. So if you like this podcast, tag us in that post and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you guys so much. Back to the podcast.
Yeah, Brian. So one of the former writers for Lost, a woman of color from Africa, basically was quoted in here as saying that she was told by another writer in the writing room that their problem is that her and her writing partner didn't think racism was funny. And it sounds like it was a very like un-PC kind of like working environment in the Lost Writers room. But here, let me just give you some examples of like what was going on. So like people would do fake Korean. They would speak fake Korean gibberish in the writers room. And the one Asian guy that they had in the writers room, his nickname was Korean. So
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have laughed at that.
You can laugh. You're allowed to laugh.
That's pretty funny.
So when someone on staff was adopting an Asian child, one person said to another writer that no grandparent wants a slanty-eyed grandchild.
Wow. Oh my God.
When actor Adewale Akintoye Gajabi, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that name. His picture was on the writer's room table. Someone was told to remove their nearby wallet before he steals it. So it was a black actor.
Christ.
When a woman entered the writer's room carrying a binder, two sources said, a male writer asked her what it was. She said it was the HR manual for the studio, and he responded, "Why don't you take your top off and tell us about it?"
Pretty funny. Pretty funny.
There was apparently some discomfort around the show's cleaning staff using the bathroom in the Lost offices, and there were jokes about putting up a whites only sign. So I believe the janitors were Latinx, if we're being
Latinxes.
Then finally, when Perrineau's Lost departure came up, Lindelof said, according to multiple sources, that the actor called me racist, so I fired his ass. So
the HR one is legitimately hilarious.
That one was pretty funny, but like the question here is that all this kind of like locker room humor, I guess you want to call it, created such a toxic environment for the women and the people of color in the writers' room that this is kind of indicative of a broader issue in Hollywood. So what's your take on the behind the scenes of Lost being like so like weird, racist, and toxic?
Why did it take so long to come out? That's my question.
Because they're writing a book about it.
What,
yeah, they're writing a book about it.
Yeah, I guess like so you're writing a book about it. It's like, here's the deal. I'm not gonna defend, Lindelof or whatever. I don't know what happened. I'm not even gonna act like I know what happened. But I'll tell you what I do know is that I actually find it sort of gross that when misjustice, when horrible things happen in a workplace, and that information is purposely held onto and hidden until someone can profit from it. That's gross to me. If it was that bad, and so many people like those poor janitors were, taken aback by that Latin. I hate the term Latinx. It's stupid as f. If they were taken aback by anti-Hispanic remarks or whatever, it's funny that we got to wait 20 years after the person's career is pretty much done for, and they no longer have any other outside jobs. They can dig up this dirty thing from their past, and they can write about it so they can profit off the pain of themselves and others. And then additionally, it's been so long, how much of it can actually be corroborated? How much of it can actually be confirmed? And I think Tom's right. I think the majority of most Hollywood is pretty bad people. I've met a lot of them,
Yeah.
and there's good ones, but there's a lot of people that hate a lot of people, and maybe they don't hate African Americans.
Yeah, they're pretty much equal haters across the board. It's not just one
person. They hate a lot. They hate many different.
Like I was saying, they're using you, right? Like they don't give a shit what color you are. All they give a shit about is, are you going to put butts in the seats? Are you going to put eyes on the screen?
Yeah.
They don't care what color you are. They don't care what race you are. That's all they give a crap about.
Yeah, and they will
get you for an affordable price.
They will lie to you. They will promise you stuff. They will steal from you. They'll do whatever it takes to further their agenda. I know. I've talked to them. I've spent time with these people. Some are good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying all the people I've spent time with.
Usually the good ones don't make a lot of money. That's the thing.
Yeah, the good ones are the ones that don't require a fucking publicist to show up on your show. I'll tell you that right now.
Here's a great example, and I know he's not a filmmaker or a movie star, but look at Weird Al Yankovic. Dude's been around making music since basically most of us have been alive. He doesn't have as much money as you think he would.
Mm-mm.
Why? Because I think he's a good person, and he probably doesn't go for a lot of the things that a lot of other people do, or take from a lot of people that he probably would otherwise if he was one of these people that step on other people on their way to the top. He's never had a bad accusation made about him. You've never heard horror stories about him being difficult to work with or anything like that.
To be fair, though, every song that is like really popular by Weird Al, that has to be challenged in court, and he's got to spend a stupid amount of money just challenging those statements with studios. So
I don't know about that. I know parody's protected. You can do.
It's protected. That doesn't mean he has to protect his protection, though, bro. So he's got to take that to court, and he's got to prove that what his work is parody. Which means he's got to spend money, which means he's got to go up against.
I've never heard him having to go to court, so you have to send me info.
Yeah, he's gone to court before.
So I think he got in trouble for Gangster's Paradise.
That was just in the media, though. That had nothing to do with anything. I could make a parody song right now as long as I pay the writer of the song. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. So I want to throw this to Matt Vader real quick. So one of the interesting things in this article is that a lot of the minorities that were involved with Lost, not just on the acting side, but also the writing side, complained a lot that the show focused too much on the quote-unquote hero characters of the also white Matt Fox, Evangeline Lilly, and Josh Holloway, the Kate Sawyer love triangle basic thing. And the weird thing is that the reason that those characters were so popular was because people love triangles. Right, and they were three of the best looking actors on the show, so of course people are going to gravitate towards that storyline. But everyone was saying like, oh, it was racist that we focused just on these three white characters on the show. So I know that you don't have a lot to say about this. I know that like you have no interest in the show at all.
I didn't even watch it, not a single episode.
Yeah, but I just find it interesting that people are so quick to kind of like write something off as racist when there are other motivations for it. And obviously obviously
didn't get the screen time.
Well, obviously the showrunners were also kind of vindictive. So like if some of the minority actors had like a problem, they would basically punish them.
Well, you know,
for-
if I was a showrunner and I didn't like you and you were in my cast, if you crossed my line, I'd probably write you off as well.
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's,
You know, it's funny. I think the hottest chick on that show wasn't actually Evangeline Lilly. I think it was the Asian chick. My opinion.
Yeah, I wish I had more to say about this and Lost and everything, but I don't. I didn't watch the show. I never found it interesting.
I watched every episode, bro.
I was too
every
busy.
painful episode.
I was too busy getting leather and fighting dragon people in World of Warcraft when all the Lost stuff was going on.
That's true. Oh,
So,
you were grinding in another way.
Yeah. But it all sounds like a typical work environment where people are comfortable saying stupid shit around each other, and there's always one person that gets their butt hurt, 5 years later, and they have to make a thing about it. My work environment, I work with 2 white guys, 2 Filipinos, and 2 Hispanic guys, one of which is from Mexico, and another one is from a Hispanic family here in Las Vegas. We have a great time. We have an absolutely great time. And 50% of what we talk about in the room could get us all in trouble. So people probably need to lighten up and quit finding things every time somebody says something, because it is what it is, man. People talk about offensive shit all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Hey guys, if you like this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and comment below on your favorite video as well. That goes a long way with helping us boost our channel and get out there in front of more people. And it lets YouTube know that we're doing something right. And if you want to catch us live, we go live 2 times a week, once on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time and on Tuesdays at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. So join us there in the chat. We will see you on the live stream. Stay salty.